If PoE ASMR was a thing, this would be it. Welcome to I Can't Believe the Squishiest build I have ever played is actually secretly really fun. You are looking at a Cold Blade Vortex Occultist, or more often just referred to as Cold BV in PoE lingo. This is one of the most satisfying builds to blast maps with, but holy crap does it have one big glaring weakness. That's right, it is squishy as all hell. In fact, I don't really think I've ever played anything squishier, and I've been playing since Oak was actually a valid bandit choice. Let that sink in. If this were any other league like Crucible, Toda, or even Sanctum, this wouldn't be that big of an issue, as what could possibly be a better defense than freezing and shattering everything on the screen the moment you introduce yourself? Unfortunately, we are playing in Affliction League, and juiced up Abyss monsters have been lining up to introduce me to the Resurrect in Town screen. Seriously, why does this button even exist? For that reason, this build has what we hardcore gamers call 6 layers of defense. Yes, the old I paid for my 6 portals, so I'm gonna use them approach. I don't even want to know how many times I've died at this point. It's gotta be embarrassing. Wow, that is honestly better than I thought. But then I started watching some streamers playing and realized one crucial aspect about the game right now. Affliction goes fucking hard. So then I kind of felt a bit better about the build. Now let me get this out of the way. This is not a Schwingy original build, not even in the slightest. I just copied a whole bunch of people on PoE Ninja and then got whatever upgrades felt right to me. Also, let me put this out there loud and clear. I don't know right now if I really recommend this build. As much fun as it is to absolutely rip through maps when you're not juicing your maps to the high heavens, dying over and over kind of feels bad. So what type of content can it do? Well, not max juice T16s unless being on the edge of your seat the entire time you're playing and breaking half your map sounds like a good time. What about the whole T7 cemetery strat then? Well, yeah, it can do that pretty well. Throw on a couple inspired learnings or a headhunter mage blade if you have one. I mean, I don't have one yet, I'm working on it, but you should be able to power through and complete most of those. But then we're talking about a build with a bigger budget than I have here. In fact, to be perfectly clear, I'm about 130 Divines invested in at this point, and there are so many upgrades for me to look forward to. You could go for a boss killing approach, but it being a Blade Vortex build, you're pretty much forced into bumping uglies with them in melee range, and with me being as squishy as I am, well, you get the picture. I, however, ended up spending hours and hours farming Shaper Guardians and running the formed invitations, which actually went really well and is quite profitable right now. Just throwing that out there for those of you that are burnt out on MF. Speaking of Magic Find, you can absolutely fit in some MF, but you're sacrificing either survivability, damage, or quality of life for it. And speaking from experience, the survivability is already pretty trashed here, so I don't know, I wouldn't recommend it unless you have a huge budget and don't want to do Tornado Shot or the much tankier Chieftain Explode thing going around. Alright, with all that preamble out of the way, I'll briefly talk about how the build actually works and leave you guys off with my very first Uber Shaper kill ever. Alright, so at its core, this build focuses on stacking power charges, as many as possible. I was able to get up to 11, but you could take it higher if you have even more divines to invest into the character. I've got my 3 base ones. I've got 3 on the tree, here, and here. I have the one on my Ascendancy that you get for going Occultist and taking Forbidden Power, plus 1 of the maximum power charges. And then I've got 2 from the shield, 1 from my helmet, and then 1 from my belt. That adds up to 11. You could get rings with plus 1 power charges, which would add, if you have like 1 of those plus a Calandra's touch ring, you could have 2 of them. Or you could also go for much cheaper a Void Battery, but honestly this one is actually stronger than Void Battery regardless. The way we're taking advantage of all of these power charges is by having a bunch of stats like this: increased spell damage per power charge. We have that. I've got some on my wand here. Just Occultist base has some of that, and like most importantly, the most critical part is actually this Militant Faith jewel. It looks like one of these. It's one of the timeless jewels. It's important that you get the Faithful converted by High Templar Dominus. And then I also went for AoE and elemental resistances per 10 devotion. Those are good passives to have. Basically, I'm a little bit tough on resistances right now. In fact, I'm not even fire res cap. That's pretty bad. The main reason you want to go for Militant Faith is because you can pick up Inner Conviction right here, which gives you more spell damage per power charge, with the downside of gain power charges instead of frenzy charges. However, we don't have to worry about that downside because we've got Ralakesh's Impatience, which makes it so that you count as having maximum number of frenzy charges regardless at all times. Now, what's super cool is that you can combo this with Badge of the Brotherhood, and Badge of the Brotherhood makes it so that your maximum frenzy charges is equal to your maximum power charges. So I have 11 theoretical power charges, and that means that I can have 11 frenzy charges, which frenzy charges add a bunch of damage, which is really, really nice. So that's a great combo. A lot of builds are taking advantage of that interaction. However, because I am pretty squishy, as I've mentioned, I actually sometimes swap in Defiance of Destiny instead of Badge of the Brotherhood. So I sacrifice like 30% of my damage, but I'm tankier, and the gain 31% of missing unreserved life before being hit by an enemy is really nice. It helps me survive those bigger hits a bit more often. So I've been using this in tier 16 maps, typically. The next important thing I got is this Sacrificial Garb. So the implicit, you get +1 to all Val skills. We're using Val Blade Vortex, so you just get a +1. You want to get gem levels on Blade Vortex, it does more damage. Pretty self-explanatory. However, what's cool about this chest is it's got the enemies you kill have 23% chance to explode as physical. This is crucial. It makes the build feel amazing when you're in maps, when you have juicy packs of like, I don't know, 100 monsters on screen. You just walk into them and then pa, everything's dead. It's beautiful. It also has life, dex, I needed dex, resistances, and not so important, the increased effect of non-cursed auras. We are rocking quite a few auras, so they get buffed, which is really nice to have. I'm also running Hrimsorrow gloves, which converts all my physical into cold damage. That's what allows us to freeze in the first place. You could swap this for a rare pair of gloves that has up to 60% cold conversion. However, that's more expensive, potentially something I will do down the line. But for now, I'm just going for these corrupted Hrimsorrow gloves. It's super simple. And you can fit in spell crit like I have here. I've got a ton of mana reservation efficiency to be able to fit all of these auras. So just to give you an idea, I'm running Hatred, Petrified Blood, Zealotry, Determination, Herald of Ice, and Herald of Purity, all at the same time. And a lot of that comes from some jewels. I have Righteous Path here, so Zealotry has more mana reservation efficiency, and then I've got Spiteful Presence, same thing, but for Hatred. I'm also running, where is it? Well, this has 7%. I've got all of the nodes, the reservation efficiency nodes I can reach on this tree, and I have Charisma allocated, which is over here. So tons of mana reservation efficiency and even 20% life reservation efficiency of skills, so that the Herald of Purity doesn't take up more than 50% of the life, which is important for Leech. I'll get into that. Another really nice thing to have when playing Blade Vortex is skill duration. So to get skill duration, I have some on the implicit here. I corrupted this belt until I got 14% increased skill effect duration. You also can get them over here. This is like the most efficient way of getting it. And in order to allocate these passive points, you need to have a Necromantic Aegis Impossible Escape. These are pretty expensive, so yeah. It's really important to have skill duration to make Blade Vortex actually feel good. I'm also running 3 curses. This is possible due to being an occultist. So I've got the Unholy Authority. You can apply an additional curse, and your hexes can affect hexproof enemies, which is really useful. So that, plus I've got Whispers of Doom allocated here for an additional curse. So that's a total of 3. I'm running Elemental Weakness, Assassin's Mark, and Frostbite on my ring. The implicit, you could get this on a suffix instead, which would probably be cheaper, but I wanted to craft this myself. I'm still not super happy with it, but I needed strength, I needed intelligence. Life is nice, and you know, it's a good ring. Yeah, what else? Charms. So for my charms, I'm actually not doing anything too special. Crit multi per power charge, and some avoid ailments while phasing. That's not important, it's just extra. Calling Strike, which is really nice to have, and then enemies that you kill are affected by elemental ailments grant 31% increased flash charges, which just means I get my flash more often, and then AoE per power charge, as well as 20% to all elemental resistances. This is again important because resists are tricky on this build. Resists and stats, you'll notice I got stats, resistances, there's a lot of uniques in this build, and like a lot of specific things that you need, and you need a lot, unfortunately, of each to run the build. I do sometimes swap in this charm here instead of the power charge crit multi one, this just so that I go faster, because then I ended up with like 22% more movement speed, which is nice. I have tried running Inspired Learning over here instead of this Unnatural Instinct. I don't find it's worth it. I'm not able to kill rares fast enough to stack up to a high amount, and even with 2 of them, basically it just wasn't making the build feel any better. I was still dying anyways, so what's the point if I'm just going to be starting over from scratch each time I die? Got some cluster jewels. This one's pretty decent, and then this here. My Watcher's Eye has basically there's just a damage Watcher's Eye, so Hatred and Zealotry both increasing the damage that I do. Then I've got that which was taken, which is really cool jewel, one of my new favorite jewels, I would say. Cannot be stunned while leeching. This is important because I get stunned all the time otherwise, and I am leeching because I have Doriani's Lesson right over here, so I'm constantly leeching. As long as my health is not actually above the 50% by using a flask, then I'm leeching, which means I can't be stunned, which is really nice. It also has Onslaught on Kill, more resistances, and the last one is not important. And really boring, but I don't know how else to fix this. Careful Planning, which gives me like 100 dexterity, because intelligence here gets converted into dexterity. And yeah, I wish I didn't need to use this, but I would have to just straight up get better gear elsewhere, and this is like 5 chaos, so it's worth it. That is my gear. The gems, there's nothing special. Level 20 Val Blade Vortex as my main skill, and then important, I guess, is the Awakened Unleash. This makes it so that I can have 4 seals, which means I get 5 blades per cast, which means I'm at the max amount of blades of 10 with just 2 casts. So that's kind of important. As for my flasks, nothing too special. Taste of Fate is really important because you get your fizz as extra cold, and we're doing fizz as the base, but everything gets scaled and converted into cold, so it's good. Just movement speed, Quicksilver Flask, just armor, Granite Flask, and then a Ball of Faith for more damage. You could totally replace this with something else. For a long time I was using a Silver Flask when I didn't have Onslaught on the jewel. You could go for an Amethyst Flask. Progenesis would be best in slot, but that's like over 100 divines right now, so forget it. I believe that covers everything. Any of the other jewels, I mean, I am running Cast on Death Portal. Any of the other gems, you can just look them up in the POB. That pretty much covers it for gear and the passives. Again, look in the POB, everything is there. My build is not fully optimized yet. I just need to stress that. This is just where I'm at right now. I'm gonna keep going. I'm really enjoying it. Despite the deaths, I am really enjoying investing into this and having a stronger and stronger character. It's pretty fun. And in playing this, I was actually able to take down Uber Shaper for the first time ever. So I'm gonna leave you guys off with that. Hope you enjoy. Yes! Yes! Well, Happy New Year, guys. Hope you continue to enjoy the videos. If you want to share your big finds and whatnot, we've got a pretty small but pretty active Discord server where you can join if you feel like it. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.